Hi guys. Well, we're finally getting started. We know what we're going to do now. We're going to be doing War of the Worlds on the front, Forbidden Planet on the back, and we're going to be doing the all-time favorite Attack from Mars on the fretboard, which will be really cool. We're going to do like a Mars planet over here, which will cover up this old Shark Inlay that I did years and years and years ago. And then we're going to put the flying saucers getting larger and larger down the neck as they get toward the body. So the first thing we got to do is strip all this out, take all the hardware off and stuff, and I've got clippers and a whole bunch of different sizes of screwdrivers and some notepad. This is one of these things that a lot of people don't think about, is a notepad. If you keep good notes about where everything goes, it's a lot easier to put everything back together when you're done, especially with the electronics. You'll see that I'll actually make a diagram about how all the electronics go together here. But let's start by getting rid of these strings. And let's clip these off real quick. Now here's a little tip. If you're ever taking stuff apart, just take some masking tape, just regular old masking tape. And if you open up the masking tape, you can put all the pieces that go together on a particular part. Like this nut is actually made up of a whole bunch of different pieces. It's got little Allen bolts and clips and all kinds of stuff on it. Now if I just take some of this tape, put it down and just take these pieces and put them together on the masking tape, then I can just fold the masking tape over and I know all these parts will be in the same piece. I won't have to go going, well, what does this screw do? Where does that screw go? Anything I can do to make this job a little easier, yeah, that's a good thing. Good thing for me. One thing I'm going to have to say goodbye to, which I'm a little sad about, is this truss rod cover. This was one of the first truss rod covers I ever made. And it's a little S, kind of looks like a little snaky S. But it's not going to fit on the new theme of our guitar, so it's going to have to go. I've had this guitar so long, it's going to be a little sad to see it change. But as I said in my introduction, I don't play it that much, so there's just no point in hanging on to it if I'm not going to play it. I think once I turn it into the Sci-Fi guitar, I'll play it quite a bit. Interesting way they did the nut there. Looks like the fretboard actually extends down and was cut to make the nut fit in there. I was kind of expecting to see part of the headstock there, but it turns out no, we have part of the fingerboard there. Interesting way for them to do that. So you see, now what I'm going to do with this masking tape, this is my tip, is I'm just going to tear off a piece of this masking tape and fold it over on the parts. And now I know that all the parts in there have to do with the locking nut. And I'll just pull off another little piece. I'll take my truss rod cover screws and throw those in there and lock those up. And this way we're a lot less likely to lose them. But I don't know about you, but I have a tendency that if something hits the floor, it's like the Twilight Zone. It's gone. It's absolutely gone. Amazing to me when you take one of these guitars apart and you really start looking at the way they were put together. For instance, this last tuning peg is not on there straight. Not at all. It's probably about 5 degrees off, and looks like a couple of the other ones are off too. I might actually see if I can fix those when I put the guitar back together. I find stuff like that all the time on these guitars, and you kind of, when you take them apart is when you really get to see the quality assurance, or should I say the lack of quality assurance that was put into these. There's no way these tuning pegs should have been put on crooked like that. but they were. However, to be honest with you, I never really noticed. So maybe that's the reason why they don't do it, because most people don't notice. I was just looking at a guitar the other day somebody brought me because they wanted to replace a couple of their inlays on their fretboard. And none of the inlays are symmetrical, and they're not in there straight. And I couldn't believe how poorly put together the inlay was. It was really poor. This is really interesting too. What I just noticed on these is they are in here. The holes for these things are really big. Probably way bigger than they need to be. Usually when you look at these things, the tuning pegs go on and they fit in there pretty tight. You got to kind of turn them and twist them a little bit to get them on. Not these. These kind of just like look like they just fell right out of the hole. Once again, that's something I call great quality assurance. But this isn't really a Washburn thing. This is an industry thing. I see stuff like this all the time. Gibsons, Fenders, Garage, all of them, they all seem to take it like there's little corners that were cut to make things easier. And granted, it makes things easier, but I always kind of believe in doing things right. How about you? People sometimes wonder why it's tougher or more expensive to change a guitar than it is to build it. And look at all the time I'm spending just taking the hardware off this thing. Now these back plates are all going to be replaced with wood. So I'm not even worried about if I lose them. I'll probably hang on to them, but just in case I might need them some other time for some other project. But I'm going to be replacing them with wood because I'm actually going to put them on the guitar and stain the guitar with them on there. So they will actually stain the same color as the back of the guitar, which I'm sure hoping is mahogany, because that's what I was planning to use for these. Pretty simple wiring, but I'm still going to make a diagram of the wiring. Oh, that's in there nice and tight, isn't it? Okay, that's going to be fun to get out. There's one spring. Two springs. Three springs, okay. And off comes the bridge. And now we got to heat up our soldering iron, because we got to take the electronics apart. And already I kind of found that the jack plate doesn't screw off, it's all soldered together. So I'm going to have to take apart the electronics that go to the jack, to the input jack. And first thing I want to do, of course, is heat up my soldering iron. When you're heating up a soldering iron, you want to make sure it doesn't touch anything, it might be able to burn. That's going to take a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, I'm going to start taking some notes on the electronics and how they're put together. This way it'll make it a lot easier. I'm not an electronics expert, as many of you probably aren't. I'm an inlay guy. So when I see all, a whole bunch of colored wires coming in and connecting to this and connecting to that, I find a lot of times it's just a lot easier to write down what's going to what. And what I usually do is make a drawing of the compartments